Welcome back. That took a little bit longer as a break than I was intending, but the officers just needed to speak with the Chief Executive to make sure that we had everything in order for the agenda. Councillors, we had moved through to start to item 15 to come is where we got to in the agenda, but we have not dealt with item 9 as we were waiting for the officers to be ready for this report. So I'm going to take you back to item 9 on the agenda, pages 53 through 61, which is the Rutherford Park Roading and Parking Concept Plan. Now what I'm going to do is put on the screen for you. At the moment, I was intending on moving a different recommendation to something different to the recommendation in the report, and we'll just get that up, and I will I won't talk through it now and I won't move it now because I want you to understand the background, but I'm going to ask the officers to speak to that so that it's clear for you, to give you an update of where they've got to. So we've got with us Mr. Olberson, Mr. Petheram and Mr. Irving, and we've got the report on pages 53 through 61. The first thing, Mr. Olberson, are there any corrections that you need to make to the report?
No.
No corrections, so you should take the report as read. Mr. Olberson does have some information that he wishes to update us on before we have questions. So there is the recommendation. You'll see that what I am proposing to move is that we proceed with option 1, and there are some changes to the wording. So, Mr. Olberson, just giving us an update on where you've got to since the report was included in the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, we had an urban design panel review yesterday. They gave option 1 a good report. They thought we'd incorporate everything we need to incorporate. However, they did have some suggestions, and those suggestions are fairly straightforward. They thought that our paths should be wider to feed both to the car parks and back to the main town. They thought we needed to enhance the landscaping more with better lighting for health and safety and for visual amenity. They thought that the car parking we have, which is in essence a turning circle at the front of the building where the entrance is, should be decreased because it was taking away some of the visual amenity. And at the same time made into a pedestrian-centric area. It was all good suggestions. The idea is we would still have some car parking at the front of the building, but that car parking would be in the centre of the turning radius for trucks and buses that need to still get around and drop people off at that point. They also wanted us to change the services area at the back of the building. At the moment we've retained the existing roundabout and had that as a drop-off for services. They thought we were missing an opportunity to actually make that into a greener area, and we should turn that into possibly a hammerhead and take the green area further around the back of the building and take the windows for the northern extension into that area as well, so you then end up with a vista on 3 sides as opposed to just 2.5.
Mr. Olberson, I might just interrupt you for a moment. Did you have a PowerPoint that you were
Yes.
that relates to what you're talking about? As you're talking now, are there slides that would be helpful for the councillors to see? I'm not sure if you do or you don't.
The PowerPoint
Yes.
presentation is of the urban design panel before their recommendations yesterday.
Oh, before.
So we can talk through that because we've also superimposed some of their recommendations over the old one.
All right.
So,
well, you let me know when you want that up, and then we can remove this wording.
We can probably talk through that now.
All right. Let's pop that up then. Thank you. So you can see the wording. You've got the gist of it, and we'll come back to that in a minute. And we'll get this. All right, excellent. All right, thank you.
Okay, this shows option 1 as we put it forward to the urban design panel with some slight enhancements. I think everyone's aware of this one. We showed this at the workshop before.
Do you want to talk to that at all?
That was option 2, which is recommended in the report for fiscal reasons only, but not recommended by officers.
I just want council to be clear on that. So the recommendation in the report was on fiscal reasons, not physical reasons, fiscal reasons, but it's not the advice. If the officers were to give us advice on which they think is the better design option for this project, their view is that it is option 1, not option 2.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
At yesterday's urban design panel meeting, we did bring up option 2. It was fairly roundly condemned.
Heavily.
Yeah.
Let's go to that one.
Okay, that is a slightly enhanced version of what we presented. What we're showing on there, the yellow blocks you can see around the car parking are actually marquees. We talked to the asset managers and they want flexibility for the whole of the space. So around that revised car parking area now, which only has 10 car parks, we actually have those laid out for marquee points, which would be permanent places that we laid out with eyelets, and then when you want to use it for flexible use, you have the opportunity just to put marquees up at standard sizes.
Councillors, I really will ask, I know you're really enthusiastic about this, but you must follow the manners of the chamber and just signal. Councillor Copeland, question.
Please show with your pointer the car parking area in that rehashed, in front of which part? So
I think self-abuse might mean that I'm too shaky to show you.
that grey piece.
Sorry.
Moving right along there.
There we go.
Over decades.
Thank you.
So just that little square in the middle there is sort of enough space for about 10 car parks.
How many car parks?
10.
So, councillors, I'm going to interrupt again. We are in a council meeting and I haven't suspended standing orders, and you really must signal to me. Otherwise, what happens is, essentially, we spend a very long time transacting business. Thank you. And I'd appreciate officers if that's not happening. Can you just pause so I can get control of the chamber again? Thank you. Particularly you, Mr. Irving.
So, if you could move along from this slide.
Sorry.
Thank you. This shows in more detail the marquee locations. You can see we also have them further down as well. The area at the extreme north end of the north building, talking to our asset managers, they would like a large marquee there, larger than we're showing there, so that they can possibly lay up dinner whilst they have a drinks function inside the north extension, and then set up for dinner inside the marquee, and they could have 2 separate areas.
Okay. So in more detail.
Yep.
Question from Councillor Ward.
So presumably these are all-weather surfaces, or sort of semi-all-weather surfaces?
Yes. I was just coming to that. The actual the main road coming in will be asphalt. This area, the area seeing hatch now, is going to be pavers. The idea is that we're now going to have the car parking not fully defined as white line car parking. It'll be a public area which you can see where parking is for VIPs and for drop-offs for disabled use, and for vehicles to drop people at the entrance and carry on round. But it'll be a defined pedestrian area with landscaping.
I think it's important to add, though, Darryl, that the intent is that we can still turn a bus, we can turn a delivery truck, something like that, you know, so there's enough space that it works for those more mundane functions, but the intent is that if we had 2,500 people in the Trafalgar Centre on a great day and they wanted to spill out and we needed a pedestrian plaza, this can serve that function as well.
I have two councillors that have got questions, but actually, Darryl, I'd quite like you to finish the presentation and then finish your presentation, and then I'll take the questions. Thank you.
Okay, give me the next one.
I'll just go back to the 3D thing. Yeah.
Okay, that's a artist's impression of what it would look like. Obviously, you can't see a definition of the pavers, but they are there, a very green area. Now, in essence, that's the presentation. But where we come from with the UDP, after we've done a few alterations, is an additional 100,000, which is over the figure that we put in the official report. And that's for the areas we talked about, including enhanced landscaping, which Andrew can talk more about.
Right, Mr. Peter, do you want to speak to that now? I think we might as well get all of the information and then
Madam
that
Mayor,
helps for the form of the
just very
questions.
briefly, when we did the design for this, we put in a bare bones approach on the landscaping. We believe to meet the requirements to present a good building that's going to function well, we need to do more of the landscaping that we originally intended. Some of that is for aesthetics, quite a bit of it is for SIPTED, health and safety.
So this is the landscaping requirements around SIPTED and aesthetics, essentially.
Madam Mayor, that's correct.
All right, thank you. All right. Anything further that you, the officers or Mr. Irving, wish to present at this point?
No.
All right, thank you. All right, questions. I have questions from Councillor Davey, Councillor Skinner and Councillor Noonan, and I've got a few others I'll come to in a minute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can we go back to the slide of the new proposal, please?
The detailed one,
No,
Councillor.
that's too big. Can we go down small scale? Okay. I was very happy with option one. I thought it was really very incredibly practical. But this option I'm not going to support. I'm not going to support it for a couple of reasons. One, there is insufficient parking close to the stadium. Everybody's relying on the fact, Madam Mayor, that it's fine. Two things. Firstly, whereabouts are your buses going to turn around to come back and pick up their patrons?
The area where the parking is actually is at a roundabout. So the buses go up, they drop people at the entrance, they go round the cars in the centre and back down again.
Yep, that's right. Where do they turn around to come back to pick up their patrons?
They don't. We never intended people to come back to the entry to pick people up.
Okay, second point is you talked about on the service road around the back to change from the roundabout to a hammerhead. How are truck and trailers going to turn around there if you have a hammerhead?
Yeah, it'll be large enough for them to turn around. We have the space there to do it. We're taking the same space as the roundabout but moving it further south.
Thank you.
Councillor Skinner, Councillor Noonan, Councillor Fulton.
Thank you. Through the chair, the close-up of the entranceway with your parking there. Is there a covered way wherever people get off from a car or a bus? Is there a covered way for people to get to the entranceway, or is there a bit of a no man's land?
We've taken that. I won't need that. I'm sure.
Can you pull up right at the entrance?
The intent is that we can pull up within 12 metres of the entry. So the entry's here, cover to the entry extends to that point, and a drop-off zone, if we were dropping off, is there. So we've got to traverse 10 metres from that drop-off to the front doors before we hit cover.
Fellow, is that something we can remedy with design of the building, or covered way over in the future?
If needs be, yeah.
And another point, a separate point. See with the costings we've got with the parking, each of these options for the main parking, whether we use part of the existing parking area or the new parking area, I still need convincing that it's 1.1 million for creating that parking area. Can that be broken down?
Yes, I can't break it down now, but yes, it is broken down. It's a budget report done by the contractor.
Yep.
And scrutinised by me. And I'll be honest, cut down heavily by me to get to the figure we need it to be.
Okay. And why? What absorbs? I know I've asked this in workshops, and I haven't really. Maybe I haven't asked the right questions. What makes up the cost? What's costing us? Is that high? Is it high because it's there? If you had a car park with a similar size somewhere else and different type of soil base, would it be cheaper, or is it because of the ground, or is it because of the
ground
plumbing or
conditions.
plumbing underneath, or?
The ground conditions in Trafalgar Park are poor. The car park base from the very bottom to the very top of the asphalt is over 700 millimetres of build-up with geotextile, with Terex. It's an involved structure.
Any further questions?
Yeah, what's a geotex?
Geotextile is put on the base to stop moisture coming up through and making the thing puddle like sand when you stamp on it. And the Terex is a plastic reinforcing that holds everything together.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Noonan, Councillor Fulton, Councillor Rainey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know how long this part of the meeting is going to take, but I'd quite appreciate actually having a hard copy of the changed wording, just so that I can look at that, because we're obviously going to need the screen for these visuals. But
Well, Councillor, I'll just interrupt. We won't, because what we're going to do is we're going to finish with this and then the wording will come back, and I think that'll be satisfactory. It's all going to be on the one slide. I don't think you need hard copies. We'll try that, and if you do, then we'll pause and get them.
Okay. So the question then, I'm still not unsure. I'm still a little unclear about the parking, the changed parking, and I want you to go through that again, because I think you said that you would drop people off in buses but not come back and get them, and I'm just not sure why you wouldn't. And the other part of the question, so I might as well give it to you all at once, is you're talking about pavers. Are they going to go on solid concrete, or they are? Good. Okay, that's a relief. Okay, so if you could just explain the parking and the bus, that would be great.
If you have pickup with buses, people by their very nature don't get on a bus as quickly as they get off. We would need to have substantial parking for buses in front of the building to collect people. To drop them off, by their very nature, people get up in a hurry, they leave, the bus goes off and comes down the other end. So in all cases, we have worked on the assumption that the buses will be there to drop off only and pick up as close as we can. And the pickup for the buses is, you see the sign that says no parking there? It's just on that area there. So it's actually closer to the building than the main car park. So we've got enough space for, I think, 5 buses from memory, toe to toe, and further spaces further on for buses.
Mayor, okay, thank you for that explanation. Just looking at the main building, is there an access there where people that are on buses can access the building? I can't quite tell from there, as opposed to going back to the entrance. Could they can go out the southern end, I presume? No.
So we've got a main exit and a secondary exit. You know, in terms of the building, we've got main doors are always there. There's a sort of access to the stadium only. I think we've talked about in other workshops here. So our expectation is that people are leaving and probably walking down the main pedestrian path and getting into buses at that point. There is the opportunity. I think it's important to talk this through, right? Access, bus turns around, bus parks, but the main car park is sized so that we can get an articulated truck in and manoeuvre that articulated truck for a variety of reasons here. So I think there is opportunity with some tweaking that a bus could be in here and turn and come back as well if we needed to. But our intent is that generally we're going to turn a bus, drop off and then park, and then people will make their way. And again, we're talking 50 metres in this instance from the front door back to their bus, worst event. And then we haven't got a line of buses parked in front of our glazed pavilion that's in front of the Trafalgar Centre. Make sense?
Yes, it does. I'm just going to think about it.
Good.
Thank you. Councillor Fulton, Councillor Rainey.
I've just got a couple of questions. One's referring to, you talked about that larger car park, trade vehicles. Is that how they will access the southern end? So they will go through the large car park and round the bottom?
Yep. So if we need to get trade vehicles to the back of house areas here, we're going to go through and either around the back. So we've got enough space at that southwest corner to do that. The other issue is outside broadcast trucks that need to park in the loading bay that's there in the back of the southern extension. So they can come in, turn, and then back straight in. So we've got both those eventualities reasonably well covered.
And is the intention, if you're parking at that larger car park, is the intention that you walk up the side of the building or along the road? Would there be a footpath through that triangular green space?
It's not very clear in this image, and that's one of the things that the UDP, the Urban Design Panel, were hot on, that we need to have
lots of
pathway, and we need to reinforce a pathway
here as well.
Down through that
And
triangle.
structured landscaping is an important part of that because we've got a fire escape in all of the toilet windows from the stadium, and that both the east and west walls of the Trafalgar Centre are impenetrable. So it's a nice idea to be able to put doors out through there, and it's something we looked at early doors when we were designing, but there's not much opportunity because, as you'll recall, when you go in there, the seats and the concrete work around the seats comes down to about chin height.
Yeah.
So I guess the idea is we're trying to screen that elevation with landscaping in the same way we're trying to soften the paths and the roadways here, and we're making a significant path that gets us to this plaza.
I've got two more questions through the chair. Has the urban design panel seen that new layout?
Yeah.
So they've seen that. And the little purpley lilac circles, are they existing trees? Because you've got some of them in the new car park, and I just couldn't, down in the bottom along there. What
Yeah.
are those?
I think that is a stand of existing trees.
So those are the existing trees, okay. So, and my last question through the chair is around, is it intended that the playground goes up in that area where there's some parking there? So that's the playground area still?
I think, again, I'm not quite as familiar with the broad, the wider park, but as I understand it, this is sort of multi-use petanque courts.
Mr. Irving, I'll ask Mr. Petheram to answer the councillor-related
Yeah,
question.
Madam Mayor, Council, that will be the playground down there, moving into the petanque courts to the south.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Right. Councillor Ward, Barker, Copeland, McGurk, Ackland.
I've got it right here. There's no reason why I've got a group of people waiting there to catch the bus can come and come back. And in fact, you've got no less parking most of the time. It's a different sort of parking. If there's no markings there, that's all parking still. So you've got the business of being more parking than you have previously.
That's a question? Is it right? Thank you. And that's satisfied. Councillor Rainey, my apologies, I missed you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just a few questions. Just to carry on from what Councillor Fulton was saying about the existing trees, particularly the ones that I'm concerned about are the ones between the tennis courts and the car park. I'm presuming that we can have some sensitivity regarding the final design, and that we should try as much as we can to my question is, can we try as much as we can to retain existing trees, because indeed they do create quite a good wind barrier for the tennis courts. So is it possible to adjust the plan, and if we needed to lose some parks in that exact area where the trees are, we could gain some by squeezing it?
Mr. Petheram.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Rainey, yes, I think it's important to retain trees there where we can, so that's what we'll be endeavouring to do.
Following on from our, through you, Madam Chair, following on from our learnings from Saxton Oval, is it possible to have a really, really good forward-thinking plan regarding power reticulation for the whole site, taking into account marquee placement, three-phase power outlets, etc. Right, and that needs to be taken into account as far as the costing is concerned.
Mr. Olverson.
Madam Mayor, yes, in the budget I have allowed for power of various sources, wireless internet, lighting, everything's covered.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Further question. It's an exciting plan, and I think one of the things that potentially is going to be great for Nelsonians is to be able to see a big greener area around the northern part of the Trafalgar Centre. And I'm heartened to hear that the UDP just suggested that we bring the roundabout on the western side back a little bit. My question is, have you considered really adequate or good screening, some kind of screening of the utility vehicles in that area? We could end up with a situation at a function where you might have 3 or 4 hire trucks or whatever in that area. Is there some way that we can screen that off, that entrance into the utility section of the new northern building?
Mr. Petheram.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Rainey, this is merely a concept design at this stage, and we'll look at those details when we go into the detailed design.
Thank you. Further question, and Mr. Irving might have backed it up. We're presuming that the utility access around the southern building to the western side is mainly for catering vehicles. However, there is a large need for production vehicles to be able to access the southern stage area. So what it brings up in my mind is, and Councillor Davey's sort of touched on this, is that inevitably for a large production, you have production vehicles going in or buses going in to drop people off, but probably they're going to have to leave the site during the actual show because of the parking requirements. There's no truck park, so to speak, or bus park in this plan.
Madam Mayor, at the entrance to the southern end of the building, we have allowed for 3 articulated vehicles to be able to be parked.
Okay.
And still use the roadway through to the services area.
Thank you. And just the last one, Madam Mayor, is that triangle of grass that Councillor Fulton mentioned and the pathway across. There would be an opportunity to continue the plaza style from the car park north of that down as a connection, and have you considered bicycle parking?
Madam Mayor, yes, we have considered bicycle parking, and the UDP suggestions are that that whole path area is enhanced, wider and landscaped better.
Thank you. Councillor Barker, Councillor Copeland.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I'm just a little concerned that what's on the overhead is not exactly the same as what I've got in option 1 of my papers. I can't see the detail, but I can count the trees. And the numbers of trees up there are different to the numbers of trees I've got here. So my question is, and I want some clarity on this, how many actual car parks? I count 165 on what's on my papers, but what looks up there looks like less than 165 in the main car park. What is the reality, please, of actually option 1?
Thank you, Mr. Olson. How many car parks?
Madam Mayor, there were 165 on the initial one drawing we put in.
So that's what I've got here.
Yes. Plus the 23 at the entry. The
26. 26 on here.
Okay. That has now been cut down to 10 at the entry.
Yeah.
We can move the car parking on the southern end further to the west to increase the car parking to accommodate. But at this point, we refined the car parking in the interim. These are designs in progress to make the car parking easier to use.
So how many in the main car park? 165 still?
I haven't counted at this point.
Councillor Barker, I think the important thing to remember is that the Urban Design Panel met yesterday. What the officers are wanting to do is to give you an update on that, but this is an overnight exercise of bringing something forward so you can understand why they're seeking up to $700,000 to be able to advance this project, so this option. So I don't think they've had the opportunity to redesign car park adjustments down to numbers in the last 12 hours.
I understand that, Your Worship, but if we make a final decision today, I'd like to know what it is. And finally, my question through you, Your Worship, is with the now likely to be 10 car parks close to the building, is it anticipated that any of them will be dedicated to disabled parking? So,
Madam Mayor, yes.
How many?
Andrew, can I ask you?
Our building code obligation would be to designate 4 accessible car parks in or around the entry to a building where we had somewhere between 150 and 200 car parks available on site. I guess our expectation is that we might dedicate 5 or 6.
So that will only leave 4 for other people who may need it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Apologies, Councillor Copeland.
Yeah, thanks very much. Really happy about the direction we're heading in for sure. Just wanting to ask a little question about this 70 mil thickness, 70 centimetre, sorry, thickness of the car parking surface. So is that designed to be essentially stable and not undulating for a period of time? Is that right?
Madam Mayor, yes, that is correct. It is that's the provisional design assessment done by the contractor, not by the designer. From the surveys we did on the grounds.
And can I just, subsequent question, how long have they given in terms of life for that surface before it becomes undulating?
I would expect in excess of 25 years.
To be quite a flat. And just my final question, if I can, Madam Mayor, was about whether you've looked into the cost of, or if you have an approximation of the cost of not cobblestoning, what did you call them? Tiling? No.
Pavers.
Pavers, yeah. the paver cost for that surface. Did you look at that?
Yes, paving, Madam Mayor, paving is considerably more expensive than asphalt.
On the surface, yeah.
Yes, on the surface, because the substructure is very similar. But it has to be stronger as well to actually take, the pavers themselves only lock in place and give a surface, they don't have any adhesion. So we've kept the pavers to the minimum at the entrance to make it work without going too far for economy reasons. If we moved that into the southern car park, it would be exponentially more expensive.
And would you consider undulating pavers unacceptable?
Pavers by their nature do move up and down. That isn't where we build the road. The road will be the similar construction around the entrance with the pavers on top as a surface dressing. So they will be rigid. In lots of situations, you put them down on sand. We'll be putting them down on a concrete mix.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McGurk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of questions, just following on a comment you made about the urban design panel. Could you just reiterate what you said about the vista around three sides? Where that is on that design? Because my understanding is the eastern and northern end were glazed, and basically the western end had the toilet and kitchen block.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, as it stands at the moment, there is a small expanse of glass at the very end of the northern building, facing to the west. Their recommendation was that we actually condense those service rooms and kitchens down to make them wider but shorter, and increase the area of glass. Okay. And that would then necessitate making the roundabout slightly shorter.
Okay. Right, which takes me on to the next question. That doesn't affect the margin, that green margin around Saltwater Creek, because of the existing work they've got trying to enhance the riparian strips along Saltwater Creek, so that doesn't encroach on...
No, Madam Mayor, it does not make any difference to Saltwater Creek.
Okay, next, two more questions.
Thank you.
The next one is on the northern end there and to the plaza area. Is that all the same material and at the same level? You look at the northern end there, you've got sort of a stripe, that area there, and then you've got the paving. Is that the same material, the surface material, and the same level?
Madam Mayor, yes it is. It's pavers.
Okay, so the area to the north is all pavers and
Correct.
no need demarcation. And final question is there a potential to extend if we're looking at option 1, the car parking area, extending it further westwards to increase, or so look at the car parking area there, extending it further westwards because there's got a bit of a shady spots up the
Madam Mayor, yes, that is the intent, is that when we do the final design of the car parks, we'll see how many car parks we're getting there, and we'll see how many more we can squeeze in without affecting the landscaping.
Right, thank you.
Councillor Eklund, Skinner, Davey, Fulton.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just one question from me. The others have been sufficiently asked and answered. Thanks. It's just in terms of the position of the playground in relation to the car park. You talked about an acronym, is it SIPTED and all that. Does that relate to safety aspects, or is it just the prevention of crime aspects in urban design? And have you thought about it in relation to because in the other option, of course, the car park's miles away from the playground. This option, they're right next door. Does that have an effect on safety for the kids in the playground and adults in the playground?
Well, Madam Mayor, Councillor, SIPTED relates to the criminal aspects of safety, but it also addresses safety as well. But we look at health and safety in all of our designs, and so that will be taken into account really, really closely.
I guess my question is, you're comfortable that you're comfortable with the traffic being directed into that exact area next to the playground? I guess actually, in truth, it's unlikely to be a full car park, isn't it, when kids are playing on the playground?
Madam Mayor, I believe that the traffic through there will be moving slowly. It's essentially you're moving into a car park situation, and we're not concerned about dangers from vehicles.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Skinner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one quick question. We're talking about the layout of the northern end there. It etc. Mr. Irvine, put me at ease, stadium manager, have we allowed place for the residing of a stadium manager when we're talking about the moving of the kitchen and the...
Excellent questions. We've done a lot of consultation, a lot more than I'd expected. I haven't got a better slide for this, sorry, but spent a bit of time talking to former stadium manager and also to the management of the Giants. And so you'll recall there was a kitchen in this north-east corner, and there's kind of an array of not well-used toilets and cleaning cupboards and things like that. So we're working on clearing out that area, installing a meeting room and some office space that can be used by a variety of people. So stadium management, we can accommodate people who manage events. If they're there for a week, there's a place for them to go and to set up some office space, and the Giants could use that area if they need to as well. And it also gives us a chance to get some storage, which is sort of really lacking internally, sort of in the low bit underneath the seats on the other side. So yes.
Councillor Skinner, you'll need to establish for me the relevance of your questioning in relation to the car park layout for Rutherford Park. I'm not here to do a discussion for 2 hours about the design of the Trafalgar Centre.
The reason it's come to mind strongly is that we've got this entranceway access, and as people access the building, they need to be able to access the stadium manager. So if we've got that corner there, is that accessible to the public or those using the event, making inquiries, etc., or are they having to come right through the building and through the stadium?
We've talked that through. So the intent is that we've got access, rear access from that corner quickly to the area we talked about having as ticketing or kind of desking in the front. Yep. So, and again, Steve Fitchett and his team at the Giants in particular are quite keen on the notion that they can be here, they have to go through a door, they can deal with the public, or they could deal with on-site ticketing at that point. We asked them about having a third entry door here, and we got a very strong no thank you for reasons of security. They'd rather have less doors in and be slightly less accessible. I guess they're concerned about security when the building's not occupied.
Councillor Skinner, further question?
So just clarifying, thank you Madam Chair, clarifying, so when people coming into the northern building, they can access the manager or find the manager relatively easily, or both parties would be aware of comings and goings.
Thank you, Councillor Davey.
I can sleep well tonight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. 2 questions. Firstly, are the walkways covered from the main car park to the main entrance of the stadium? Are they covered? Okay. The second question is, have you discussed, through you, Madam Mayor, have you discussed the amount of space needed to move heavy motor vehicles and buses in this new proposed plan to negotiate what you intend? I say that on the basis that the trucks are getting bigger and the buses are getting bigger, and they're taking more room to manoeuvre.
The turning circle will be worked out by a roading engineer on the standard set of charts for the size of the trucks. Yes, we can.
Thank you. Councillor Fulton, Barker and Councillor Stewart, one more question. All right, and then I'm finished with questions, I think.
Through the Chair, I just had a couple of subsequent questions. I noticed you've got in the plans another car park right down in the south as you come into the park. Is that part of this budget at the moment? So that's part of the current plan?
Madam Mayor, yes it is.
The one at the bottom?
Yes.
I just noticed that compared to the lovely curves and the trees of the one up the top, that one has had little attention paid to trees or foliage. Are you going to give that some attention when you finalise your plans?
Madam Mayor, this is still in concept form. Yep. Yes, we will be addressing that.
Great, thank you. And my last question is, I've noticed you've put trees in that middle big car park, but not on the northern side, which on the northern side would allow shade for the car park itself. So I'd hope that you would consider that in your final plans.
Madam Mayor, yes we are.
Great.
Thank you. Councillor Barker, then Councillor Skinner.
Thank you. It was just a final question, just to get total clarity on the car parking. Can we go back to the new slide, the new one? Yeah. On the entrance road there's the words no parking. Bus parking, okay. Following that line further down, going now to the old option one. On my option one here, there are 19 car parks on the side of the road. Are they still there?
Madam Mayor, yes, they still are there.
They
And
will
I think
be there.
They will be there.
In option
And the
one.
intent would be they could be overspill for buses, but they'd be designated for cars.
Yeah, and of course they're very valuable for people who want to use the playground or the Moto walkway.
Correct.
So I want to make sure they're there.
Yes, they are.
Thank you. Councillor Skinner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Quick question. Just this may hopefully filter through to the detailed design. Motorcycles, just want to make sure motorcycle parks aren't overlooked. Both, where possible, close to the entranceway to encourage people to take their motorbike rather than their family car, and in the main park. So just make a awareness.
They will be encountered.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. It's very detailed questioning on the design. Thank you. There's nothing further, officers, that you need to present at this point in time. Right, thank you. In that case, I'm going to put the recommendation back up on the, what I would like to move, back up on the screen. All right, so talking through this, so you have that the report and the plans are received, so that's the same, that the Rutherford Park Option 1 Roading and Parking Concept Plan with the new estimated cost is in there, so that's 2905,000 be approved, and the funding to come from the 2 million for roading, car parking, landscaping, and 300,000 for walkway, cycleway connections budgeted in the long-term plan, and that up to 700,000 unbudgeted capital expenditure be approved, and that the authority be delegated to the Mayor, Chair of Works and Infrastructure, Chair of Community Services or their deputies, and the Chief Executive in alignment with the Trafalgar Centre arrangements to this effect. So that last clause is taking the same approach that we took for the northern end for the sign out of costs and other things, because in order for this project to move forward, we can't be bringing it backwards and forwards to council meetings. So I'm signalling that I'm going to move that, and I'll move that now, and Councillor Rainey's happy to second that, and then I'll take speakers, Councillor Skinner and Councillor Laurie. When you're ready, Councillor Skinner.
The 700 question and comment, 700k unbudgeted capital expenditure, unbudgeted, where do we get it from?
Chief Executive, explain how that works.
Madam Mayor, my comment would be that your capital budget gets allocated to particular projects, that the Audit, Risk and Finance Subcommittee gets a corporate report quarterly and gets updates on the deferment of capital projects, the over expenditure of capital projects, the under expenditure of capital projects, and is actually able to streamline, to identify where you are able to make the appropriate adjustments to the budget and to approve it. At year end, you will have a capital budget that will be within the final amount that you've approved, because experience tells us that even given our very best endeavours, we never spend 100% of the projects. I am relaxed that the law allows for you to approve unbudgeted expenditure, and you can then recover that in the following financial year.
Councillor Skinner, further
Follow
question?
up. I'm not relaxed about it. I wish I could find by the end of the budget in my home, find an extra 10, 20 grand, but I still, we'd be borrowing it, or end of the day, what I see would have to take something out, and we can't sort of stretch the money.
Well, councillors, that is one of the options. What I have looked at in terms of this is that as we move through the annual plan process, we will start to look at which budget figures are moving through in terms of timing. But councillors, and I'll speak to all of you in this, in saying that when we developed the long-term plan, we made quite a deliberate decision to say that we wouldn't have council budgets with what I'm going to call floats in them, with some padding out to deal with this sort of matter, to say we'll take a bit off there and a bit off there and a bit off there to allow for the inevitable things that happen throughout the year. And we made a deliberate decision to get as close as we could on those budgets, but we noted that that would mean from time to time there would be unbudgeted expenditure. That was the counter. This is one of those occasions.
So
Councillor Skinner.
Following from that, are there areas within this greater direct area of a Rutherford that we can take out? I mean, for me to support this, I'm not going to be hoping that we can stretch 700 out of thin air or so forth. So I would like to see something, if this is a priority, and which I'm seeing this is a priority, to get this building up to scratch, to get the building sweating and getting a return, as much return on we can on this unfortunate rebuild. So something which is not so core, and I see things like the playground, etc. So if to get my support on it, I'm not going to be relaxed about finding 700k, because as you rightly put, when we set the budgets across the board, we weren't fitting in padding room, to be fair, on the ratepayer of what we're budgeting. So I'd want to see us an intent to pull something out, because I see this important that we get this place up to running. Or the other option is we don't grass every bit of grass, we don't get up to the sharpest perspective, we leave a bit untouched, landscaping, parking, etc., and leave that to a later date. It comes to me, it's like a home situation. I'm without a bicycle at the moment, as you're probably aware, it got stolen. I'm not going to replace it, because if I have to replace the bike straight away, something else has to give, and my bicycle, for example, it will end up buying a bike, or make sure I pay my other bills first. And this is the same situation we are in here. 700k is a lot of money, and we can't just, we can get away with a few things, but these keep adding up through the triennium, that we keep saying, well, another 100 here, another 500 there. Before we know it, the money doesn't stretch. So something, for me to be supportive of this, and I want to be as supportive as I can, we've got to be clear about where that 700 is coming from. And I might point out the playground, or something else would need to be shown to me. That's my stance.
I'll just ask the Chief Executive to respond in terms of your questions.
Councillor Skinner, and indeed all councillors, can I apologise if the use of the word relaxed has made you think that I'm profligate on the expenditure. I was merely trying to indicate that the law gives you that room. Equally, the report that's before you today is about approving the budget for this part of the project, which you have already agreed needs to be completed alongside the Trafalgar. So the matters that you've raised, Councillor Skinner, could more rightly be addressed at the time of the annual plan, because you would be able to, I want to use the word jig, you'd be able to make adjustments in the capital budget at that time, and at that stage you would have better information about what savings have been, or projects have not been completed in this financial year, and what you might want to give up. My advice to you today is that if you want to complete this project alongside the Trafalgar Centre, you need to be focused on approving that to allow the time for the work to be conducted.
Thank you. Right, moving on to Councillor Laurie, Ward, Davey, Fulton, Rainey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm speaking in support of the recommendation, and I'd like to congratulate everyone who's helped us as a city get to this stage, this point. I think what we have before us looks like a development that Nelson will be proud of. I think option 1 is totally the way to go. Option 2 looks to me like the lose-lose solution. We'd spend a whole lot of money and end up getting something that's arguably less attractive than what we already have. Option 1 gives us a more attractive area, and it gives us a really decent park that Nelsonians are going to love, and future generations, I believe, will support us for supporting this recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Yes, I'm supporting it too. This is not just about the Trafalgar Centre. It's about further refining and defining and advancing the Rutherford Park development. And I've been surprised at the current use of that. You know, it is just, it hasn't reached just anything like its potential, but every time I go down there are people using it. This just makes it more usable, and I think that's a plus. Yes, you know, we may be able to tweak some other projects to find the $700,000. That's possible. But even if we don't, this will be money well spent. And you know, $700,000 is about 0.1% on the rate, something like that, I imagine. But it is there. But you have to say, would this be a good way to spend it? I have to say yes. If you're going to put this money into this project, do it well. Do it well. And to me, it's looking really attractive. I like that grassed area that can be used for putting marquees on, not that are soggy underfoot, but that are dry underfoot, and that you can use for other purposes. I'm hoping the car park will be attractive, that it's got sufficient trees, you know, that it actually doesn't just look like a car park, because most of the time there probably aren't going to be cars there. But well done to the team, well done to Andrew Irving in particular, who actually questioned what we were doing and said, you know, actually, why have you got a road coming, you know, when you've got people who are going to be walking in, they're going to have hordes of cars going, why don't you move it? It was an obvious answer, but, you know, somebody coming in from outside, so well done, and, you know, great project.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I support option 1 as drawn on page 59 of the agenda. And I say that because it is the most practical solution for the most users for the Trafalgar Centre. It gives us the ability to provide more than 4 car parks for the disabled. I say that because in the last 5 years that has come very home to me that there is a lack of disabled car parks in many areas, and to have the ability to have up to 23 car parks at the front of the stadium is ideal. I'm a bit unhappy that we could have up to 200 car parks or 165 car parks in the southern car park, and when it's pouring down with rain, every single one of those people are going to walk in the rain up to the stadium, so they're going to sit in the stadium dripping wet while they're watching whatever they're watching or attending whatever event they're attending. But however, the main thing is we've got we have bus pickup and drop off as described. The buses have the ability to park across away from the entrance, but they have the ability to turn and pick up their patrons. To have anything else is silly. I think that we are going to have this event facility in the top of the South Island, and option 1 gives us the ability to have a first class transport solution to the event centre. So I'm totally in favour of this. Sometimes aesthetics must give way to practicality, and I think that option 1 gives us the benefit of all the practicalities that are required to make this complete park and Trafalgar Centre work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. I'm just a moment because I don't want to confuse you in terms of what is there, and the Chief Executive is going to do some slight changing, because this is what happens when between 8 p.m. last night and 9 a.m. this morning there's a further advice come in from officers. Councillor Dave, I just want to be very clear that what I've got on the screen here is intended to reflect the option 1 and the analysis from the urban design panel. So what it is doing, it is picking up the additional, the requirements from the urban design panel that brings the expenditure up to 700,000. So I'm going to just get some wording so you're all clear on that. I think some of you understood that, and I just want to make sure everybody understood that. So Councillor Davey, if you don't support the amendments as proposed presented this morning, then I'll come back to you and allow you to speak again, because you've just spoken in support. So I'm going to sort of put a pause on that. So everyone understands what yes, I'm getting nods. Councillor, yes? Oh, the wording to come up. But as you're speaking, in your speaking order. So Councillor Fulton?
Well, that was actually what I was going to say. It seemed to me that the report be received actually needed to have A1451682 added into that, because that's the amended plan, I'm assuming. A1451682 is the amended.
The administration advisors are sorting that out as you
so
speak.
that's what I was going to say. I'd like to receive that new plan before I approve it.
That's right.
That would be good.
All right.
And
Ms Langley's just on the case right now. Numbers sorted.
so
Thank
I'll
you.
speak to it really briefly. I am quite thrilled with this new layout for our landscaping, and I'm really excited that the architects turned their mind to what was on the outside of this building, and that they made the point that we want a roundabout as our front entrance to a beautiful new building. And I'm really thrilled that the staff took that on board and have gone away and reflected and figured out how to improve this design so much more than, it's so much better than what the initial Rutherford Park design was. So I think it's a wonderful progression of lots of people putting their thinking hats on and progressing design so that it's usable and aesthetically pleasing. And I do believe that this is really practical, it's really usable, it's giving the space really good amenity value, but it's capitalising on keeping that northern tip open and green, and that is the space people want to be in the most, and it's not far to walk. So I think this is a great design and support it fully.
Thank you. Councillor Rainey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm certainly supportive of this option and, well, the enhanced option that we've seen this morning. This is really a step forward. It's a plan that gives us more car parking than the alternative, which is good. It takes cars off the riverbank, which I think will enhance the value of what the Investment Council's put into that new riverbank treatment. It really does green that whole area in a fabulous way. It provides a very, very good civic space and makes real sense of both the Trafalgar Centre, the new enhanced Trafalgar Centre, and also makes real sense of Rutherford Park. I just want to briefly touch on what I see as a real danger of applying domestic financial philosophy to local body consideration. You know, we have a responsibility as councillors to provide leadership and to make sure that projects have the best outcomes for the city. And to be perfectly honest with you, when the Rutherford Park management plan and its subsequent implementation was adopted, and I can't remember how many years ago that, I recall that the overall potential costings for Rutherford Park were somewhere in the $6 million range. And I've seen over the years, you know, appearing back and appearing back and appearing back. Sooner or later, we have to achieve the end point where we strike a budget with the best possible outcome. I think we've got there today. I know there's a few more things to roll out as far as Rutherford Park plan is concerned, and I look forward to seeing how those things pan out in over the next year or so. So putting this in may not be palatable, putting this roadway in and the extra expense may not be palatable to some Nelsonians, but I am absolutely certain that the majority of Nelsonians want to see this project being finished, and they want to see it being as good as it possibly can be, and I'm satisfied that we're going to achieve that outcome with what we have in front of us.
Thank you, Councillor Rainey. I've 3 speakers for, even though we are just getting some wording tidied up here. I've had 1 speaker against, and Councillor Davey, I've paused for you so that you can, once you see the wording, you can come back. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak against what is up here?
I wish to speak, but not totally against.
Well,
So a couple of points I want to make.
Well, hang on, Councillor Barco. I am going to, if the clarified wording is important to you making up your mind, then I suggest you just pause till we get it, and then you can decide which way you'd like to speak. So it won't be very long. We'll just adjourn for 2 minutes, just to, because otherwise it's a little bit difficult for the administration advisors. So we'll just give them a couple of minutes. It'll be probably less than 2 minutes. Righty-ho. So just to ensure that the Chief Executive's had an opportunity just to make sure that the public record in terms of the numbers is what it needs to be. So some wording's going to come up on the screen, and hopefully the seconder will be happy too. I'm happy with what is there. If the seconder is as well, we'll just wording we're using. So this is taking you through this. It's option 1. With the costs, noting the enhancements proposed by the urban design panel reflected in the document you saw on the screen. I don't feel the need to receive it. We're just recording the document number for the purposes of the record. And then we refer again, talk about where the funding, that up to 700,000 unbudgeted capital expenditure be approved to give effect to the enhanced option 1 based on the document. Okay, you're happy with that, Councillor Rainey? Just Chief Executive's got one question for me. Okay, we're nearly there. I'm very grateful, just while we're waiting, I'm very grateful for the fact that the Urban Design Panel was able to meet and come together to have a look at this before our meeting, but they've only been able to time frame, be able to do that yesterday afternoon, so this is what's causing us to just get the numbers up correctly. All right. All right, Chief Executive, we've just got some changes. There we go. So we've now put the total budget in. That's just to reflect the 700,000. All right, Councillor Rainey's happy with that? All right, there are the words. Now, back to my speaking order. Now, Councillor Barker, you decided...
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I want to just indicate that, in principle, I'm very supportive of option 1. It concerns me that, however, that we've reached a situation where we're going to decrease the number of car parks and increase the cost as a result of what happened last night. I don't like that in particular because I was very happy with what was here, like Councillor Davey, but I'm still prepared to support it because there are other ways of looking at how we can do this, and the Chief Executive is entirely correct. In all my years in council, there's always been a surplus at the end of the capital projects at the end of the year. I don't see any great difficulty in using that, and it is legal. Also, in terms of other ways of saving money, I believe when it comes to the proposals being put in front of us for the playground, I want to see not just the Rolls-Royce playground. I want to see put in front of us designs that show a budget playground, a normal playground, and a Rolls-Royce playground. Because I believe sometimes I have looked at the standard and the cost of playgrounds around the city, and they exist in that form. There are ones that are very, very expensive, ones that are not that expensive, and some that have been done cheaply. So I want, as from my chairman's role, I want to be asking the chairman of the Community Services Committee to make sure that we get options when that comes up, because there are ability to save there.
Councillor, can we just focus on the matter in front of us today?
In terms of other saving costs, I believe some of those landscaping costs that we're adding in today could have been covered by operational landscaping costs out of that operational budget and being done outside of this project, but being done, coming out of operational funds. So there are ways and means of taking our money out of our purse.
Thank you. Now I'm going to come back to Councillor Davey to decide whether you're going to support or oppose what's there.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's always difficult when we've studied for a week the agenda and diagrams and designs and so forth and made up our mind on what is required, and then to come to council and have a new one put up on the board, all of a sudden it throws all your thoughts out the window. But however, if we took the new design, Madam Mayor, and we said, righto, we're having events and so forth here, and there is no need for any marquees outside, we have sufficient parking on that marquee area for buses, for disabled parks, for anybody else. How it is managed, is up to the management of the Trafalgar Centre, but it gives for us to have that parking near where it is needed. Because I can see us having more events and strategy, more events and conventions or conferences or whatever you like happening at the Trafalgar Centre under this new proposal, and that needed near the entrance for bus pickups and drop-offs and disabled and so forth. So I will support it, and on the basis that I'm happy with the way that second paragraph has been worded, and the bracketed section is exactly as I like. So I will support it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I don't have any.
Can I call for a division?
You can. Yes, you can. But you can call for a division. But I'm just in the middle of a sentence. No, I'm not ready to put it yet. I'm just. I've got Councillor Skinner, who's you've already spoken, Councillor Skinner. So did you want to? I can't. You know, you've already spoken, so it's fine. Councillor Fulton's called for a division, but I'm going to exercise my right of reply. This project has got a time frame around it, and the officers and our consultants have been really working hard on getting this Trafalgar Centre and Rutherford Park access ready to go for next year, because it does make a difference to the entire city. I have, when we sat down to look at the options, and it's recorded in the report, we all felt far more positively about option one. The Urban Design Panel have looked at the options and have come back very clearly saying option one. The only reason not to proceed on option one would be around the dollars. And the dollars are important over the scale of the entire council budget. But to cut at this point and say, I'm not prepared to spend $700,000 when I look at the entire investment across Rutherford Park, as Councillor Rainey has talked about, that would, I don't think, be a prudent call. We are making a long-term investment to the city. It is a civic space. And I have watched projects in the last term of council. One that particularly irritated me was the reduction in the Bridge Street budget. And I didn't support that. And the outcome was that nobody was happy. I don't want a similar situation to happen here. At $700,000 in terms of the scale of Rutherford Park, the value to the city, the improvement to the functioning of the Trafalgar Centre and the area around it, I think that's a prudent expenditure. So I'm really pleased that I've got the council's support today to move that forward. The division has been called for.
Councillor Ackland. Councillor Barker. Councillor Copeland. Councillor Davey. Aye. Councillor Fulton. Aye. Councillor Laurie. Aye. Councillor Matheson. Aye. Councillor McGurk. Aye. Councillor Noonan. Aye. Councillor Rainey. Aye. Aye. Councillor Ward. Aye. The Mayor.
Aye. Motion is carried, 12 votes to 1. Thank you. All right, that concludes that item. We'll move on with our agenda now. So we're moving now back to item number 15. So item number 15 is the hearing panel minutes, pages 120 to 125 of your agenda. Do I have someone who would care to move the recommendation? I'll take them as individually. So starting with the 21st of September, do I have somebody who would move those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Barker. Seconded by Councillor McGurk. Yes, these are the minutes. Yes, thank you. No questions, no debate. In that case, I will put those. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Moving on of the 19th of October, page 122. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Ackland. No questions, no debate. I'll put those. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Moving on to page 124 of your the minutes of the meeting of the 5th of November. Do I have someone who would care to move? Thank you, Councillor McGurk, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. I will put those. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on now to the reports from, starting with page 126, the minutes from the Regional Transport Committee on the 16th of October.
I'd like to move that the unconfirmed minutes for meeting of the Regional Transport Committee held on the 16th of October be received.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Copeland. No question, no debate. I'll put those. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Works and Infrastructure, pages 131 through 137 of your agenda. Minutes.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move that the unconfirmed minutes for meeting of the Works and Infrastructure Committee held on the 22nd of October be received.
Thank you, seconder. Thank you, Councillor Laurie. I'll deal with them individually if that's right, Councillor Davey. I'll put those. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now moving to the Transport Asset Management Plan.
Like recommendation to Council that the Transportation Asset Management Plan 2015 to 2020 to reflect the long-term plan 2015-25 be adopted.
Thank you. Moved and seconded by Councillor Laurie. Any questions, debate? I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Next item.
Green Meadows Stormwater Easement Consent. I'd like to move the recommendation the Council grant the Nelson City Council an easement pursuant to section 48(1) of the Reserves Act 1977 under delegated authority from the Ministry of Conservation over part section 50, District of Suburban South defined on DP 4585 as described in report R4822.
Seconder, Councillor Laurie. Thank you. I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried. Now, councillors, if you do have questions on these items, please do signal, won't you? Solid Waste Asset Management Plan.
Yes, I'd like to move the recommendation of Council that
Thank
the
you.
Solid Waste Asset Management Plan 2015-2025 amended to reflect the long-term plan 2015-25 be adopted.
Seconded by Councillor Laurie. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Now, moving on to pages 138 through 144, Planning and Regulatory Committee. Councillor McGurk. Thank you. Councillor Fulton. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Recommendation to Council on wood burners and air quality.
The Nelson Air Quality Plan is notified in January 2016, and that in respect of the plan change, the Quality Plan Independent Hearing Panel will be decided by Her Worship the Mayor, the Chair and Deputy Chair of the Planning and Regulatory Committee, and be given delegation to hear and make decisions of the wood burner plan change.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Fulton. Questions, debate? I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Now moving on to item 19, pages 145 through 144, the joint committee minutes. I will move those. They're dated the 3rd of November, seconded by Councillor Ward. No questions, no debate. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Councillor Rainey, Community Services Committee, pages 150 through 156.
Chair, I'm happy to move recommendation to Council that the unconfirmed minutes of meeting of the Community Services Committee held on the 3rd of November be received.
Thank you. I'll second those. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to move recommendation to Council that the Heritage Activity Management Plan 2015-2025 amended to reflect the long-term plan 2015-25 be adopted.
I'll second that. Any debate, questions? I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
Similarly, a recommendation to Council that Parks and Reserves Asset Management Plan 2015-25 amended to reflect the LTP 2015-25 adopted.
Seconded. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
I'm happy to move a recommendation to Council that the Property and Facilities Asset Management Plan 2015-25 amended to reflect the long-term plan 2015-25 be adopted.
Seconded. I'll put those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
And finally, a recommendation to Council. I'm happy to move that the Community Partnerships Activity Management Plan 2015-25 amended to reflect the long-term plan 2015-25 be adopted.
Thank you. Seconded. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Now, our Governance Committee, moving on to pages 157 through 163 of your agenda. Governance Committee, 5th of November. Councillor Barker.
Your Worship, I would like to move that the unconfirmed minutes of the meeting of the Governance Committee held on the 5th of November 2015 be received.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Ackland. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
Following on, your committee recommended to Council that the reviewed and amended Nelson City Council policy for the appointment of directors, trustees of council-controlled organisations and council-controlled trading organisations A284857 be adopted. I'll move.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Ackland. No questions, no debate. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
I'll move the further recommendation from the committee that the approval is given for the proposed approach as detailed in R514 to review all applicable services in order to comply with the requirements of Section 17A of the Local Government Act 2002, and that a quarterly report back on progress of the review be prepared for the Governance Committee.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Ackland. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
I'll further move that the committee recommended to Council that the draft asset disposal policy A1412442 with amendments be approved, and that the delegations manual is updated to reflect the delegations in the asset disposal policy. So moved.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Ackland. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you.
And further recommendation that the draft risk management framework A1431591 with amendments be approved.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Ackland. Put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried. And Councillor Barker, just before you move on to the next item, I did note in the that there was going to be a tabled document in relation to this item, and that's just being circulated by Ms Langley. So, and the Chief Executive will just speak to that briefly. I'll just wait for it to be handed around. That's all right. Thank you. You're expecting that, I'm sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think it was asked for in the committee, so
Yes, it
pleased to
was.
see it.
It's on its way through. Right, thank you. Now,
Your Worship, the paper.
Thank you.
I am happy to move the recommendation from the committee in the knowledge that the information has been received in this report.
Thank you very much.
So
Thank
I'll
you.
move that 350,000 for the upgrade of the Civic House veranda be deferred until 2017-2018, and that 200,000 for the upgrade of the Hunter furniture room be deferred until 2016.
All right, thank you, Councillor Barker. And given it's been tabled, I will just invite, before we take the seconder, because I can see Councillor Ackland still reading, just to paraphrase what is in the document. Mrs Hadley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think there was a question mark as to whether this budget was in this year or at all, and I think this sets out that we're deferring it in accordance with best asset management practices to get the longest life possible out of what we have, but we do anticipate we will need to replace in future.
Thank you.
Your Worship, I'll further move that the Chief Executive's memorandum of the 17th of November 2015 entitled Clarification around Future Work on Civic House Veranda be received.
Thank you. All right, so that's the recommendations to Council and the receipt of the further information. Councillor Ackland, are you happy to second? Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Councillor Ward.
So what I mean here, just glancing through, at some stage it's going to have to be replaced, and you're better off to not to do anything and spend money on replacement.
Thank you. Councillor Rainey.
Clarification through you, Madam Mayor. The upgrade of the Civic House veranda, does that include the veranda in front of the State Advances building?
Yes.
Certainly would be my hope at some stage that some consideration could be given to the fact that there's a design impasse between a building from the 1930s and a veranda from the 1980s or whatever it was. Thank you.
It's one of the benefits of the deferral.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a query whether the, just a confirmation really, that the memo will be sent back to audit risk and governance as well. Does that become part of that, or does it just stay here?
No, it stays here as part of the record to this meeting.
Okay.
All right, no further questions. In that case, I will put the recommendation as set out with including the receipt of the further information. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye, against, carried. Now pages 164 to 168 of the agenda, the Chief Executive Employment. Move those minutes, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye, against, carried. Now I'll just check with the Administration Advisor and the Chief Executive. Does that conclude all of the public business for today? In that case, there is the recommendation to move to exclude the public on 23 on your agenda. That is moved by Councillor Davey, and I will second by Councillor Skinner. I'm going to do them in full, so you've got all of the items in one go, as set out on your agenda. I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye, against, carried. And that will take us into public excluded. Thank you.